You're listening to Birthing at Home, a podcast. I'm Elsie, your host. I recorded this episode on unceded Wurundjeri land in Naarm, Melbourne, Australia, where Aboriginal peoples had been birthing at home, on country, for thousands of years prior to the British invasion. They are the original storytellers. If you want to learn more about me, the podcast, or how I can support you in achieving your home birth, be sure to check out my Instagram at birthingathome_a podcast. Episode 40 is shared by Kate in New South Wales, who after 4 births in a hospital under obstetric care chose to free birth in her 5th pregnancy with just the support of her partner. Kate doesn't go into detail about her 4 hospital births in this episode. However, it's really helpful to note that she experienced a postpartum hemorrhage with her 3rd baby, and her 4th baby was diagnosed with meconium aspiration syndrome and spent much of her first year of life on oxygen. I think it's really important to include such details because it really contrasts how different her free birth journey was in a complication-free birth and postpartum. Kate also reflects on the importance of good support and self-belief. It was great to record with Kate, and I know you'll really love this episode. Enjoy! Welcome, Kate, to Birthing at Home, a podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today, even with a sore back.
Yeah.
Kate, this is actually, I was looking back at our messages and I think maybe we started chatting in maybe like November or something.
Yeah.
So this has been like a long time coming.
Yeah, it was ages ago because we started chatting and then, well, I think just life happened.
Yeah, but Christmas, because you have such a big family and then it was like so busy.
Yeah. It was so busy, oh my word.
Yeah.
So,
I'll get you to give like a bit of an intro to who you are, who's in your family and where you're located.
Okay. Well, obviously, I'm Kate in my family. So we've got my partner Evan and I have a beautiful blended family of 7 children altogether. So he brought 2 lovely children to our family, Summer and Ryan, who are 10 and just about to turn 8. And I brought 4 kids. I brought Archie, who's 15, Atticus is 12, Barney is 10, and Winnie is 8. And then we created Henry, who is about 15, 16 months now, something like that. I'm not good at keeping track of these things anymore.
Yeah. So many birth dates to remember.
Yes, so many. And someone asked me Evan's birthday the other day and I told them the dog's birthday accidentally. That was awkward. Just cut that bit out.
No, that's staying in. And so what's the name of your eldest, sorry?
Archibald, Archie.
And so Archie's 15?
Yes.
And then Henry is 15 or 16 months or so.
Yeah. Something like that. He was 1 on the 1st of December. So where are we at now?
Yeah. Whatever.
He's getting up there.
And months.
Yeah. He's 1. He's 1.
And so your first 4 babies were born in hospital.
They were, yes.
And today we're going to hear a bit of a brief overview of those experiences. But what we're really here to talk about is you then choosing a free birth.
Yeah, from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Private hospital with an obstetrician and the same obstetrician for 3 out of 4 of the births.
Yeah.
Deciding free birth is what we want to do. So.
Wow. And Evan, were his 2 children also born in hospital?
They were born in hospital, yes.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess like before you had those birth experiences with your first 4, did you know anything about birthing at home?
I think with my first, I didn't really. I did. I knew about home birth, but it wasn't something I really considered. I didn't I just didn't really think about it. I just always thought, oh, I'll, give birth in hospital. And I knew the big private hospital close to us. So I was like, oh, I'll go to a private. I just thought you have to go to an obstetrician. You have to go to a private hospital, and that's where you get the best treatment, and that's where you get looked after. And that's what I thought with my first. After that, I started to be a little bit more wary of the system, I suppose. Just became I think I just became a little bit more interested in everything, and did some kind of educated myself. And then, after that, I actually was keen to, I sort of did hypnobirthing. So I went and did it by myself though for my second baby. And then third baby, I actually went and did a hypnobirthing course. And then fifth baby, I kind of was pretty confident by then that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I would have birthed those guys at home. However, I didn't have people around me who felt confident in that choice. And I think that contributed a lot to me just choosing to not push back against that. I pushed back against a lot of things. But I didn't push back against not birthing in hospital.
Yeah. So do you remember like what you said that you maybe would have birthed at home. Do you remember like why you felt that, maybe home was an okay place to give birth?
So with my first baby, I had an obstetric. It was a fight the entire time. From my first appointment, I remember her telling me that I was carrying large. I was three months or something. I was carrying large, and she was already placing the seeds of doubt in my mind about, cesareans and this, that, and the other. Just, we could schedule it, there's benefits to that for you and it's convenient. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And then from then on, every single appointment, it was like, you've got a very big baby, you've got a very narrow pelvis. I don't just constantly placing those seeds of doubt. I was fighting against it. Then as I sort of came towards term, even ultrasounds, it's big, massive baby, huge baby. And I was like, okay, well, I was determined that I was going to birth vaginally, to me, that was just what I would do. That was just in my head. I was like, well, that's what I'm going to aim to do.
Yeah.
And so during that pregnancy, because of that fight and that pushback that I had to do, I started to educate myself during that pregnancy. So I spent hours upon hours on the internet, watching and reading about births of big babies.
Yeah.
And of, Google back then, so back then I'd be like, Google small women, big baby, birthing big babies. And I'd be like, oh, this woman can do it. That means I can do it. Just really doing a lot of that and a lot of research around induction and things, because she was constantly pushing induction. And when, I had to fight. When I came to, I think it was 40 weeks, she was like, all right, well, let's schedule induction. I was like, nope. Yeah. And they were calling me, trying to get me to schedule an induction. Wow. I was like, nope. And then eventually I gave in, and I think on 41 weeks I said, all right, fine, you can do the gel.
Yeah.
And so I went into hospital. They gave me gel. It didn't do anything, and she tried to convince me to be put on, to be put on the drip to go up a level. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And they didn't want me to leave. She didn't want me to leave, and I had to fight to be allowed to leave the hospital. And so I went home, and then she said, all right, well, we're scheduling you for 42 weeks. I'm not going to let you go past that. And so, again, back then I was very, very different. I obviously still had some intuition inside me that knew that I was capable and knew what birth could be, but I was very different. I didn't know what I do know now. It was my first baby. I wasn't confident. And so I kind of was like, okay, fine, 42 weeks. Okay, fine. We'll do an induction on 42 weeks. So the night before my induction was scheduled on 42 weeks, I came into started labor, which I think my body, I feel like my brain made that happen because I was so scared. Yeah. And anyway, that birth was not fantastic. And that obstetrician actually said to me while I was pushing on my back, she made me have pethidine when I first got to hospital because she said, you won't be able to stand the pain. So they made me take pethidine, which made me vomit constantly. Yeah. And then blah, blah, blah. She ended up, while I was pushing, telling me, you need to get this baby out right now, or I'm going to call upstairs for a C-section. Like literally while I was pushing, and I lay in that bed and I begged her. I said, please, 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 in tears, give me one more chance. I know I can do it. And she said to me, one more chance. And my mum was there, and my partner at the time, they said you turned purple. Your head almost turned inside out because I was so determined that, I'd been threatened. Yeah. That if you can't do this. And so then that caused a lot of issues for me physically. Yeah. And the recovery wasn't fantastic and everything. So, yeah, basically that first birth really, I think, prepared me and made me very, very determined to make things different in future. Yeah. For myself and my babies. And, it just, I had to really, really fight. Yeah. Every step of the way.
Yeah. And so then, so after, did you say Archie?
Yes.
Yeah. After Archie, you had 3 more babies with a different obstetrician?
Yeah. Yeah. So after Archie, we went back to, my ex, my 4 children's father is British, and we actually went back to England for a little bit, and then we went to Tasmania, and then when we came, moved back up here to the Northern Rivers, we weren't actually quite sure if we were going to move to Brisbane or Northern Rivers. We actually ended up in Brisbane. Yeah. So I kind of decided to pick a hospital in between the two because, again, I wasn't scared about. I was like, I'll have no problem driving there. It's not going to take me, I was like, if I have the baby on the side of the road, that's fine. Like I always felt completely, supremely confident that if, I had an hour drive to the hospital, that'd be fine anyway, because either I'd get there or I'd have the baby in the car. I just didn't worry about it. Wow. And so I was very lucky that I got a particular obstetrician at Tugun hospital at John Flynn at the coast, and the obstetrician that I had seen, for some reason, I don't know, I think he did something dodgy, because then all of a sudden he wasn't there anymore, and they sent me to a new obstetrician. They said, we think that you'll really like this obstetrician. He works closely with a midwife, and he's very supportive of his mums. He's he was one of the first first obstetricians who was very much into the water birth, and they're like, he likes to work with his mums.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And I did like him. And it's true that for an obstetrician, he was very open to listening and allowing. Yeah. That's not a word that should be used, but
it's the reality, and that
it is the reality. Yeah. So he was a lot more open to that. And I continued to go back to see him after that, because again, the people around me were very much not comfortable with me birthing outside of hospital environment.
Yeah.
And I really kind of took that to heart.
Yeah.
And I felt that if so my second birth was a lot different to my first. Okay. And so, I felt more capable of, I didn't have to push quite as hard. I didn't have to fight as hard.
Yeah.
I trusted that if I was going to be in a hospital, it was going to be with someone that I knew. And yeah.
When was because you could have, hired a midwife, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
But, so with Henry.
Yep.
How did you, at what point were you like, free birth?
Yeah, well, by this point, after baby number 4, honestly, I should have just had her at home. Really, I was supremely confident in what I was doing. So by the time I became pregnant with Henry, I was just so different in my mindset, in that I was just supremely confident. I'd been, even though I hadn't been had my home births that I had wanted to have, I had been a member of home birth groups for years, and everything like that. So I believed in home birth. I believed that home birth was the best choice where possible. And just because I hadn't had that experience yet, it was what was going to happen. It was just, that's it.
Yeah.
So we did consider a midwife. However, being down near Lismore, with the floods, 3 of the midwives who were recommended to me, were all kind of not practicing.
Oh, wow.
At the time.
Yeah.
That I was one of them, her house had been washed away.
So this is December 20.
Well, 22. This was when I was
looking
pregnant.
Into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of when it had not long happened. So it was, so her house had been washed away. One of them, her business had been washed away. One of them, they were just all taking a hiatus to try and get their lives back in order, because their lives had been destroyed by the floods, basically. So then I was like, oh, geez, what am I going to do? And so I kind of got it in my head that, oh, well, I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of
you always had the confidence, but you
very
just, much. Hadn't had the right support.
Very much. Yeah.
The right people around you.
100%.
And so Just pausing here, everyone, to thank the June sponsor of the podcast, which is Earthy Birth. If there is one thing that has been missing from the home birth scene, it is aesthetically pleasing birth pools. Until now. Earthy Birth is a small family-owned business, and they're proud to offer professional quality off-white birth pools made from thick eco-PVC and are designed for 40-plus uses. That's a lot of home births, guys. They also offer stunning disposable floor-length liners, uniquely designed so that they protect the whole pool and that they don't slip off into the pool. Not only that, the liners come with optional artistic designs printed on the base to make your birth space even more beautiful. Earthy Birth also stocks plenty of other home birth supplies such as hoses, tap adapters, pumps, rebozos, birth combs, fairy lights, and much more, all in gorgeous earthy tones. They offer both purchase and hire with free shipping Australia-wide for all orders over $50. Visit earthybirth.com.au today. Thanks so much, Earthy Birth, and enjoy the rest of this episode, everybody. So when does Evan come into the picture? So Evan, did you, I guess, not so much when did Evan come into the picture, but did Evan know much about your previous birth experiences?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he I mean, I don't. Yeah, I think he knew about my very, very strong stance on birth and natural birth, and I'm a very much, I guess you could say, staunch kind of, I don't know. I've breastfed all of my kids sort of into toddlerhood, and tandem fed, and I'm a baby worn, baby weared. Co-slept, bed shared. So he knew all about that. And we've definitely spoken about birth, and I am absolutely sure that after a few wines, I have got on my high horse and spoken about the hospital system and how women are pushed into thinking that they need to have all of these interventions, and I've banged on about the cascade of interventions to him, and the poor man's just he knew what I was like. He knew what he was getting into. So.
That's amazing. I guess reflecting on those your personal experiences, and like people can have positive hospital experiences and whatnot, but in your own words, like how would you describe how it made you feel having those experiences?
Exhausted, because even with a good obstetrician, I felt like I had to fight constantly. I had to be on top of things to know what was really necessary, what they were going. I felt like I didn't ever feel 100% that I was the priority, my baby was the priority. Their systems of procedures are always going to have to come first. And I wanted, and there are times where that is incredibly important, and that does make the baby the priority, because of there are times when those procedures have to be there for the safety and the priority of the baby. But then there's times that those procedures make the baby come second, and make the mum come even much further down the list.
Well, they're they're blanket kind of
very much.
Well, they're not statements, but blanket things. And we're all individuals, and
Absolutely.
our babies are individuals, and
very much. And they can, by using those blanket procedures, they can sometimes make things go wrong for you, because you are not like the same as Wendy, who had a birth yesterday, who needed this procedure, and so they are like, oh well, we're going to do this procedure on you too because of some reason, and then that actually causes your body to react in a different way, which sends your baby into distress. And it's like, so many, and it's one thing that I found I guess, discovered along the way or became more aware of along the way is the whole idea. I think I started to get a little inkling of it when I started to look into hypnobirthing and how important it is for us to feel safe and how much our feeling of safety can impact on the way that our bodies actually react to birth and to the hormones of birth and to, just the physicality of birth. And so I kind of built my strength of understanding of that up along the way. And there are some women who hospital will, if they want to, even if they really want to have a so-called natural birth, hospital will be the best place for that to happen for them because that's where they will feel the most safe.
Yeah.
And that's important, really important. That's, and sometimes if they learn more about things and they can start to feel, they can start to realize that being at home is, just as safe, if not safer in so many ways. But for some reason, some women, they're just never going to feel that. And again, we're all individuals.
Yeah. And that should be, me. Nobody's saying everyone should birth at home.
Not at all.
Not everyone should be birthing in the hospital. So.
Not at all, by any means. It's like it's the norm to birth in the hospital, and I just think that's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insane.
Actually, when you say, I'm sure, like when, you've told certain people that you had your baby at home without any support, like you would be called insane. It's just like
absolutely. Not just insane, but irresponsible, and you don't care about your baby, and you don't care if your baby dies, and oh my God, she's mental. And it's like, no, mate, I think you're a little bit mental if you let yourself be pushed around by doctor and end up getting your tummy cut open for no reason. Not that that's never necessary, 100% is, but if that's not what you want or really, really need, then let's try and push against it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. So many problems.
Because that's a big thing. That's a big procedure.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that we should be like, no. Hey, guys, hey, ladies, let's try and avoid this where possible, because...
Yeah, I saw like something on Instagram the other day, and it was like the comparison of a knee replacement surgery and a C-section, and the amount of support that people receive after having a knee reconstruction versus C-section. And I was like, you get
anything.
Nothing.
Any procedure. How about like the any procedure a woman gets compared. I don't want to. My poor Evan, I had to listen to me bang on about this just a couple of nights ago. So
it's so true. I mean, it's very problematic, but it's very amazing that you. I mean, that is so tough that you try and seek out a midwife, but like if there's no midwives, really about like. What you gonna do?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
When did it when you kind of had learned that like midwives might not be able to attend your birth, and free birth would be like the path that you would take.
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel? Were you like a bit like worried or nervous or excited or?
I felt relaxed and resigned.
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, well, this is it then. Like it was, that was just in my head. That was what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
Because there's another little interesting part of the story is that I did develop high blood pressure.
Yeah. Okay.
So I actually went to my GP and I spoke to her about the fact that I was, this was before, I had fully made the decision that was going to be free birth. I was still, you know, trying to locate somewhere that I could home birth, or that had even just a, you know, a birthing centre or something in the area. Like I think maybe Byron or Mullumbimby have a midwife program, and I was trying to get in somewhere. I went to my GP, and so I was having problems with my blood pressure. And when I told her about my intentions to have a home birth, she said, "Oh, no, you won't be doing that." And that's when I went, "I'm sorry? Sorry, I don't think you know me very well, because you don't tell me not to do something."
You've just made it worse.
To not happen.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me knows, no. That's a silly sausage, you silly sausage.
Oh my gosh.
So she referred me to an obstetrician.
Of course.
Because of my high blood pressure.
Yeah.
And I did actually go and see him. And I saw him a few times during my pregnancy just to keep an eye on my blood pressure, because although I believe in, you know, our body's ability to birth, you know, in its own and everything, I also really, really believe in that when we need an intervention, or if we need medication, then that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
So I'm not like this is just me. Like I am, if something goes wrong, or if there's an emergency, I'm happy to go to the doctor or go to hospital.
Yeah.
It's just the fact is I don't believe that birth is an emergency or necessarily a reason to be at the hospital. But when my blood pressure was dodgy, which could have potentially affected my baby,
yeah, of course.
For me, it felt responsible to keep that in check with a specialist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I just didn't tell him my intentions.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And like, I guess, you know, through this whole thing, because you would have had children that were like a little bit older, did they have an understanding of like the path that you were choosing to take? Or
yeah, very much so. Yeah, they told everyone, you know, Mum's having her baby at home and everything like that. They knew that. But my mum, who is probably I think Mum's nerves about the whole idea of it, because fair enough, you know, I'm her child, and she was nervous about something happening to me, but I took that very much on board for my other births. And this time I just really was determined that no, it is going to be okay, and I want to show her as well that it is okay. Yeah. That it's going to be okay, and it's going to be good, it's going to be better. Yeah. I wanted to show her that too. So she didn't really believe. I kept saying, no, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to have the baby at home. Yeah. And she's like, ugh. And I'm like, look, Mum, if at any point, I said, look, if at any point I feel like something is unsafe, I promise you I will use the hospital for what a hospital is intended for. Yeah. And that was my intention all along. Yeah. There was never and that I sort of reassured on a number of occasions my partner, my fiance Evan, with that too, that I am not going to refuse it's a fine line, because I had to explain to him that, you know, when you're kind of in a vulnerable state of when you're laboring, you know, other people's attitudes can imprint on you pretty easily. So I really needed him not to panic and be scared and make me panic and be scared and think, I needed. So I was sort of like, if there's anything that you're genuinely worried about and I don't seem very well during the labor, or you think that something's not right, if you talk to me about it and you still genuinely think this isn't safe anymore, then I promise you we will go to the hospital. Yeah. Because, like I said, hospitals are wonderful places for sick people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Absolutely.
if I wasn't sick, I wasn't, or if I didn't think that my baby was unsafe, then there was no reason for me to be there in my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I might have got off track. I don't know what I was talking about.
No. And so you saw the obstetrician. Did you like connect with any other supports during the pregnancy, or?
I did have not medical support. No. I did have super duper low iron towards the end, and it was so bad that we have sort of it's a two and a half story house, so it's kind of 2 stories, but we've got kind of like a landing in the middle, and I couldn't walk from the bottom of the house up to the top without having a little sit down and a puffed out rest on the middle landing. Like, I was exhausted. And so I weighed up my options, and I did end up having an iron infusion at that point, because I had also had a pretty significant hemorrhage in after one of my previous babies. So that's another safety option that I was kind of making a conscious choice about what can I do to prevent this? What can I do to make this as safe as possible? And I think in hindsight, that was a really great option, because it was amazing. Like, I know some women, it makes them feel really, really sick, and they, it's not great for everyone. We all have to weigh up risk versus benefits. And,
of course.
But for me, for my personal circumstances, both the kind of current ones and historically, that's what I felt I needed to do. So that was kind of the other medical, I suppose, intervention that I had. During the pregnancy.
And during, the however many appointments with the obstetrician or whatever, was it mostly about your blood pressure, or did he suggest for you to do other tests? Or?
No, he did. He tried to get me to do all the tests, and I just either brushed it off or just didn't go to get them. I did have the morphology scan again, because I wanted the option to know whether it would be safest for my baby to be in a hospital. If there's something had come wrong on the morphology scan, I wanted to be able to make that choice to, maybe be at, Brisbane Children's Hospital, or be birthed somewhere if it was required. So I did choose to have that scan. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, wow. And that's just, compared to, for previous pregnancies with, having to fight. It does sound way more relaxing. Even that engagement with the obstetrician, I think having in your mind that actually it's going to be different this time because this is my plan. That sounds...
It was. And it was also funny to me too, because I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, oh God.
I'm just entertaining this. That's so funny.
And when we're getting towards the end, and he's like, oh, well, you probably don't want to go over too long. And I'm like, mate, I've told you my history that I've gone, all of mine were 42 weeks, 43 plus something, 43.
Yeah.
I'm like, do I sound like someone who wants to be induced? But he kept being like, oh, you're not going to want to go too much long. If I'd go in there and I'd be tired or sore or something, he's like, how are you doing? This is sort of towards the end when I had a couple of extra ones. Just keep a, close eye on that blood pressure when things can get a little bit
of course,
dangerous. So I had a few, and he'd be like, oh, well, you don't want to go too much longer. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, he even said, oh, maybe, at 40 weeks or maybe 41 something. He's like, oh, maybe you just something come in, you know, I can just give you a little check, give you a little sweep. And I just cracked up laughing. I was like, yeah, nah. Like, no, stop it.
I wonder what was going through his mind. Like, that's so funny.
I was just like, oh. But he was lovely. Like, he was really lovely. And I'm making it sound like he was like, he works closely with a lot of the midwives in the region and with home births and stuff. He's a beautiful, amazing man. Yeah. I didn't want to fight anymore. Yeah, of course. I didn't want to fight anyone anymore. Yeah. There's been too many pushing for no reason. Yeah. So I felt bad. Yeah. I felt bad because he was really nice and lovely, and I was like, oh, but
this guy has no idea.
No, bless.
And was the plan or the hope that like the kids would be home or
no, I really wanted. Oh, well, I mean, it wasn't going to be like, you know, if the kids were home and all was well and good, I was happy for them to stay here and be here. However, I know from my previous labours that I very, very, very much go into a zone, another worldliness where I don't, you know, I'm just a block of wood that shuts my eyes and don't talk to anyone. So I guess I didn't want, I would have loved to them to have experienced it and been around, but I didn't know, you know. So we were kind of, if they were going to go and hang out with my mum while I was labouring or whatever, if it came to that. But basically what did happen was that's right. So I kind of had an inkling, and this was at what I was, you know, I think I was like, you know, supposedly, technically 10 days. So what, 41 plus, what is that, 3? I don't know, I can't count. Yeah. And I like go back to maths, that's not going to work. I had an inkling that afternoon and I was really uncomfortable, and I asked Mum if she could have the kids for that night just so that we could spend some, so my partner and I ever could just spend some time together, and I just really wanted to snuggle up and get all those, you know, lovely love hormones happening, because by this time I did want to have this damn baby.
Yeah, of course.
So I wanted to snuggle.
And like, I think like somebody said this to me the other day, because I recently interviewed an amazing mum. Her episode's going to be released next week, who had a free birth with twins, right?
Yes. Oh, wow.
And I told like another friend, like, oh, you know, like she was however many weeks with twins, whatever. And she said, oh, she must have been so uncomfortable. And I was like, well, hell, I've had two births, two babies, big babies, but I don't think anyone feels comfortable at the end. You could be having 10 babies, and I think the one, sure, you might be a bit more uncomfortable if you have 10, but like the end of pregnancy is like, it's mentally horrible.
It
physically
is
horrible.
It is
like, especially, you know, I personally don't enjoy pregnancy. So it feels like the accumulation of just all of this discomfort.
Yeah. I have crap pregnancies because I have HG for the first 3-4 months. Yeah. And then I have heartburn that one time made me vomit in the frozen food section at Woolworths.
Whoa.
Yeah, like this is like heartburn that made me, that was a fun time. Like I would be the worst thing ever. And then also like symphysis pubis dysfunction. So I can't roll over in bed. So I'm like, I just wanted to get this.
It is uncomfortable. Like nobody's saying, I hear actually quite often like people saying, oh, I'm so sick. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get induced. I just want it to be done. And I'm like, every single woman.
I know.
It feels done. But
it does. But the thing is, you've got this far.
You're so close.
You're so close, mate. Look what you have been through to get this far, and I'm done. Yes, you're done, but you can go a little bit. Just hold on. Hold on. But the thing is, they
get you whilst you're weak.
They get you when you're vulnerable. That's what they do.
Yeah, and like what that obstetrician said.
And they trick you.
Yeah, I'll just do a little check. Just a little check.
Oh, just have a little check and maybe a little sweepy swoo while I'm there.
Yeah, because I'm there.
No.
Yeah,
I did not have anyone insert their digits.
Yeah.
Well, any medical people insert, while I said no to all cervical checks for that entire pregnancy.
Yeah.
I didn't have any for the 2 pregnancies. Even though I had an obstetrician, I didn't have denied cervical vaginal check for the 2 previous pregnancies as well.
Yeah.
Because I was like, sorry, wait a second, sorry, what's it going to tell you?
Yeah.
Pardon? It's going to tell you that I might have the baby in half an hour, or I might have the baby in 2 days. So sorry, why are you going to poke around in there?
Yeah.
No thanks. Like, I just.
Yeah, it's.
And you know what it's probably going to do? It's probably going to make me go.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be less likely to want to come out.
Exactly. So true.
Get away. Get your fingers away.
Exactly.
If I want.
So you're cuddling up. You're like.
Yes.
Getting all this oxytocin.
Yes, I just wanted to snuggle and have oxytocin and have loving and loveliness and so I knew by bedtime when we kind of decided to try and go to sleep. I knew because I think I'd had like a bloody show by that time. Like I'd gone to the bathroom and gone, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But I didn't really say anything to him because I wanted him to get sleep.
Yeah.
And I also knew that it could still be another week.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't want anyone else to know so that I don't feel the pressure to, are you feeling something? Are you feeling something? Yes, I'm feeling contractions. I've been feeling them for the past week and a half.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
just stop asking me.
Yeah.
Like I had horrible prodromal labor. All of my babies were, all but Henry, my last, were posterior, persistent posterior. They were all born posterior.
Wow.
So I kind of know what it's like to have long, drawn out, isn't it, starting, stopping.
Yeah.
So I expected that that's what would be happening this time as well. I expected that he would be posterior. Yeah. I figured I'm going to have another back labor. I'm going to have another posterior baby. That's just it. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. Turns out, no, he was a very good little boy, and he wasn't. But
yeah,
wow. So then about 11 o'clock at night, it was kicked in for good, and I knew. And he slept, and I just quietly laboured throughout the night, going to the toilet, just coming back to bed, up and down, and he tells me, like, time goes fuzzy, he tells me it was about 5-ish that I woke him up. He's like, that was the first noise I'd heard you make all night. And then he was like, oh, here we go. It's on.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So.
Did you have, like, has there been, across your 5 births and labours, has there been any like consistency in duration, or have they all been quite different?
The first 3 were they were long. They were, sort of a couple of, I think sort of but see, I don't know, because again, it wasn't consistent, because it was very much stop and start. So it'd be very intense for, a day, and then it'd kind of slow down, and then it'd be intense. So yeah, they were long. Even the doctors, the midwife, whatever they said, that they were it was long, but what am I going to compare it to? Really. All I can compare it to is that so my fourth, she was, I think, relatively quick. What would she have been like? Maybe like 14 hours, something like that. And then Henry was quick as a wink.
Yeah, so, really? So you wake Evan up at 5 and you're kind of like
accidentally.
Like, it's like time started to blur already.
Yeah.
And so none of the kids are home.
No, they were at Granny's.
They're at Grandma's.
Yeah, they stayed with Granny for the night.
Thought about any different things that you would use during labour that you wanted to test out, or?
Well, I had so when just to quickly touch on the, I guess, safety aspect, I had sort of done a course in neonatal resuscitation. I felt I felt prepared in that way. I just knew that I thought I would want darkness and closeness. I was lucky it wasn't, I had music, I had hypnobirthing tracks prepared. We had, the room set up just nicely with dim kind of candles, fake candles. We have a corner bath, a spa. So I had considered getting a birth pool. So that's one thing I'd considered, getting a birth pool. However, so we're just going to put my first birth aside. But the next 3, we had a big birth pool in the birth suite I was in, and I kept refusing to get in it. Okay. I didn't want to be in the water. I was like, no, but I would get in the shower, but they'd try and turn it on warm, and I'd scream at them and turn it on cold.
Wow.
So during my labours, I'm like, I get really overheated and I just want to be cool. And so I kind of was like, well, I don't think I'm going to want to be in the pool. Yeah. However, we did have the big corner bath, and that was prepared with, I had like memory foam mats in there and stuff if I did want to use it, and so it was all ready to use if I did want to hop in the big bath. Didn't want to. Did spend some time in the shower with the water on cold again, but we had blueies and canvas sheets around everywhere and that kind of thing. So we had the hypnobirthing tracks and everything, and as it turned out, it was a rainy day, and all I wanted to was silence and the rain. That's all I wanted. I did not want anything else. So
that's meditative in itself.
And we just kept the curtains shut, and Evan was sort of like, do you want me to put your music on, or do you want me to put your tracks on? And I was just like, no, I didn't want that. I just wanted to be in my little cave, and it was absolute perfection that it was rain, because it's one of my favourite sounds in the world. Wow. So it was so good.
Wow. And so what was that labour like then?
Well, one thing I wanted was to rest as much as possible, and try to just really, really trust my body to do its thing. And so because in previous pregnancies, previous labours, I remember just getting to the point of kind of transition and just being like, I am too tired. I can't do this, and I did do it. But I didn't want that feeling anymore, which I mean, of course you're going to feel that like during labor, like there's always going to be that point, and I 100% had that point. But this time I lay down on the bed and I spend a lot of time just laying down. I had a comb, a birth comb that I used. I just really, really internalized and just focused on my breathing very, very much. And I mean, at one point I think, as it turns out, this again must have been transition, because I remember starting to shake really, really badly. And that's when, and I had given Evan like a whole, like he was amazing. He was so willing to listen and learn and keen. What can we do? What can I do? What do I need to do? Because this was he's like, this experience, he said, could not be more different to what he'd been through with his first. He's like, it could not be more different. Like it's the opposite. And he's like, your confidence, your just everything is like, it's like night and day. Wow. So he's like, I trust you. He's like, I trust you. Just tell, you need to, he's like, I trust you, but I don't know. So you need to tell me what you need before. And so I wrote him a list like beforehand, and it basically explained to him, I said, look, I will start at some point, I'll start to say, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. At that point, it probably means that I'm close to doing it.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. And I also said, I said, like, transition happens when you are very close. It's like the time between you're laboring and when you start to, okay, it's time now. And I said, so there's a number of things that could happen, and I explained hormones and adrenaline and everything. And I said, I might start to vomit, I might start to shake, I might start to scream, I'll be saying I can't do this, all of these things. So my 4 previous pregnancies, I got the vomits. And that's my worst part. Like that's the only part of labor I would never do again, is the vomiting, because I don't like the vomiting. I don't mind the laboring, but the vomiting, get rid of that. And so I was scared about that happening, but I didn't this time. But I got the shakes really badly, and I was like, I need to go to the toilet. And so I stood in the hallway just shaking, and that's when I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And he was amazing, and he's like, you're doing amazing. You are doing this. You are doing this. Said all the right things. And then I went to the toilet and I sat down, and I remember it's a bit of a joke between us, because he said, oh, don't grab onto that, which is the toilet paper roll. He's like, oh, baby, don't grab onto that. It's not stable. And I grabbed onto the toilet roll holder, which is screwed into the wall, and completely ripped it out of the wall. Like ripped the like chunks of plaster and the screws, and I was just like, oh. And we were laughing about it the other day, because there's still a divot there, and he's like, I said, oh, he's like, remember when you did that? And I was like, he's like, you were just looking at it in your hand and going, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, shut up. And then there's still like a dent there, because he like a few weeks later he plastered it over, and then a few of the kids came along when the plaster was wet and like put finger holes in. So it's funny. It's just like you know. I just turned a light on myself. So that happened, and then went back to lying down, and everything started to get very intense and obviously ramped up very, very close together. And he just sat at the end of the bed very quietly, and I knew he was there, but he didn't. He'd ask me, do you need anything? He'd bring my iced water and just quietly put it, and because I told him, I need you to remind me to drink. Your job is to make sure, I said, your really, really important jobs are to make sure that I drink water and to make sure that I go for a wee regularly, because both of those things can impact
Yeah, so true. They're so
your body's
simple,
ability.
so true.
Yeah, your body's ability.
Yeah.
So that's what he kind of focused on, but he was very quiet other than that. And I was he was sitting down somewhere in the room, I don't even know, and I was lying down with my eyes closed, and then I remember feeling the baby, so the entire time I was laboring, I could feel the baby moving around.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I wanted as well. I wanted to be feeling, I wanted to be really, really in tune, because if I was going to do this and I was going to be in charge and this was my baby's safety was my responsibility,
Yeah.
I really wanted to be in tune with my baby. And that's why I think I did a lot of lying down and a lot of internal and quiet, and I could feel him moving the whole time. And then I consciously felt him, like his head move down, and I could feel my bones, like my pelvic bones, like move apart, like grind apart into a different position. And I went okay. And that was the moment that he explains to me that he's like, you said, this is it. I need to kneel down. Oh, no, I don't think I said this is it. I said, I need to kneel down. And I jumped up and he said, and you nearly wrenched my fingers out of their socket.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't know what was going on. He's like, you were kneeling by the edge of the bed. I helped you get there and you were kneeling there. And then I had put up some pictures on the wall and stuff, this and that. And he had his own cheat sheets that I'd made for him, and he'd put them next to his wall. And at that point, he says he realized that I had the rhombus of Michaelis.
Oh,
like,
wow.
he could see it.
Whoa.
And he's like, he said he was standing, sitting, kneeling, standing, sitting, whatever, squatting behind me.
Yeah.
And he said he looked at my pelvis, the back of my back.
Yeah.
And he said he saw that lump and he went, oh shit, wait, I know that means something. What does that mean? What does that mean? And at that, he ran over to the other side of the bed to his cheat sheet. And then he was like, oh my God, that means it's coming. So he sprinted back around and just got there just in time.
Whoa.
Because again, I felt like I was very much like I was open to catching or receiving baby myself, or I didn't mind if he did or if I did. But as it turned out, I was very, very shaky and my arms very weak, and that just wasn't going to be safe.
Yeah.
He could have just dropped onto, like, I was low down, so that would have been fine too. But I think it was really lovely that he received. So Henry, he was like, I could feel him. I was like, I felt at one point something kind of was stopping, something was restricting him from moving out fully. And so again, I had kind of researched different positions and this, that, and the other in case of emergencies. I didn't feel it was an emergency, but I did know, I said to him, I need to get one leg up. I need to get one leg up to give him room for his shoulders to come out. And so he helped me get one knee down and one knee, like, leg right up. And then that's when he slid into position, and then he came out. And he did come out. Poor darling Evan didn't quite know what he was seeing. He admitted afterwards, because Henry was born on call.
Oh,
So Evan didn't know what the hell that was. He said he was like,
an alien.
Holy shit, he's like, oh my God.
Wow.
And then as he came out, he's like, oh, so he kind of half realized, and he said, as I held his head and he came out, he said I kind of pulled at it, and he said, and then it came off.
Whoa.
And then it
Gosh.
Gushed, and he was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And he had like a double nuchal cord.
Wow.
So he was holding Henry.
Yeah.
He was still behind me. I was kneeling down with my hands over the bed, just like kind of
yeah.
And he said his cord's around his neck. His cord's around his neck. And I said, that's fine. That's okay. Give me a sec. And I sat down and he passed him to me.
Yeah.
And I don't remember doing this, but I unraveled. He said, you just unraveled his cord from around his neck.
Whoa.
And then just started rubbing his back. And I just looked at him and he was a little bit gurgly.
Yeah.
So I just suctioned his nose a little bit and then he was so aware straight away. Like, we've got photos of which I'll send you photos of him, like,
please.
literally seconds after he handed him to me. And he was little Henry was just staring into my eyes. Like, he was just staring into my eyes, just like looking around. Like, he was so alert.
Yeah.
And then I'll send you the video too, because then it's like that's not something like he snapped a few photos and stuff throughout the labor, but that wasn't really a priority for me. I wanted some, but that wasn't really a priority for me. But I was so glad that he did start recording, because there's this video and he's going, you did it. And he was like I was laughing. I was cracking up laughing.
Yeah.
And his voice was almost in tears. He's like, you did it.
Yeah.
And I was laughing and I was like, I did it. And then he said something. He's like, we've got a little boy. And I went, and I started cracking up laughing. I'm like, oh, do we? Because I hadn't even asked.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. And I was like, oh, wow. And I had a look and we had a little boy.
Yeah.
And then, the video was I was just laughing and laughing. And I was like, oh my God. And he was laughing and he's like, he was in tears. He's like, that was amazing. Like he was,
so
it was
beautiful.
So wonderful. And it was just the three of us there. And it was just, this is our house that we own, and this is our bedroom that we own, and our baby was born here, and it was
magical.
Bloody special. Yeah.
How
really cool.
long was it until the placenta was born?
Yep. Well, so I after we'd been sitting there just for a few minutes, I did say I want to try and go, because I had the previous hemorrhage in my third birth. I did want to just be cautious. And I said, can you help me? I just want to go to the bathroom. I want to do a wee, just in case anything's, I just want to make sure everything's good for the for the next part. So I think we stopped halfway. I said, I just want to have a little sit down. So I sat down on a step to the tub, and I sat down, and then I was holding Henry, and he just latched on. Like, I didn't even, like, I was just holding him, and then he just like latched on, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, and he's like, is that okay? And I'm like, yes, that's definitely okay. And I was like, that's good. Let's let him have a feed, because that's going to help the placenta come as well.
Incredible.
So we let him, and this was like 5 minutes. He like just latched himself on without me even realizing. Probably a terrible latch, but he gave it a good go. And then I went then we hopped up, and I shuffled, because the placenta was still attached. And Henry was still, his umbilical cord was still attached and everything. So I shuffled into the bathroom, and then I sat on the toilet with him feeding. And then, I can't 100% remember. I think I gave birth to my placenta pretty soon after that. I don't think it was in the toilet. I think it was like in front of the toilet. So that was all luckily really really easy. And again, I was really sort of cognizant of keeping the good feels and the good hormones coming to make that as easy as possible, so that there wasn't any kind of problems, interruptions or problems with that when it came to, because that can be, those can be issues and things, and I just wanted to avoid any problems. So,
wow, that's so beautiful. And how has that made you feel as like a woman, as a mum? Like, obviously you have like been I saw something the other day that was like, you shouldn't call people like superwoman, but like you've got 4 amazing children, yeah? So presumably you already feel like I am woman. But like
Yeah,
I think there's probably something quite different about
100%.
that's
Oh,
all you
yeah, yeah,
and no one else but
yes,
you did all of that.
yes.
How does that make you feel about
Well,
yourself?
I think it's even less the actual fact that I did it. I think that I'm fat. I think that I'm proud that I had the confidence in myself to do it, that I really, really believed in myself. And I feel incredibly, is privilege a word? I don't know, just that I had such a wonderful, wonderful partner who he just really gave me so much trust, and he just gave me really what I needed. So yeah, I just felt blessed, and I didn't feel like I was better because I'd done it that way than I had the other way. Like I was braver this time or anything, because any birth is bloody huge and takes bravery and strength and determination, whether it is, a vagina birth or if it's an induction, if it's a cesarean. All of those things are like, wow, women are incredible.
Absolutely.
But this one, I think it's just the fact that I had that confidence in myself and I proved myself right.
Yeah.
I think that's given me a lot of, just confidence in my ability to trust myself and trust my body. And I really want other women to feel that as well. That's the thing that I think is a big bugbear of mine is and I would never say, I'm never going to pick apart someone's birth, but it hurts my heart when a woman will say, oh, I really wanted to have a natural or a drug-free or a vaginal delivery or whatever is important to them, but I couldn't do it because I had to have this, and then I had to have this, and then the doctor said this, and then my baby was going to have problems if I didn't do this.
Yeah.
And I'm not there. I'm not in your shoes. I'm not the medical professional, but I do know statistically, and just I do know that had you not been pushed into those interventions, then the likelihood that you could have had the experience that you needed, it would have been more likely to happen.
Yeah. Well,
I know that was really convoluted. I'm not sure how to explain myself.
But I think that's a tough argument to prove nowadays that birth is physiological, birth works, because at least 95% of women give birth in the hospital, and however many end up having inductions, that's not even or even interventions, because the statistics don't include vaginal examinations as interventions.
Exactly.
So there's not really anybody
all of it
being given the opportunity anymore.
All of it.
To have
and I see the intervention. An intervention starts when you have to stop your labor and hop in the car and go to a different environment. That's the first intervention.
Yeah.
Like being in a room that you're not comfortable in, that's an intervention. Having lights shining on you, that's an intervention. Having people questioning you. Like I said, like I didn't particularly, some people love having their kids around and that kind of thing. I didn't want anyone to bloody talk to me. Like I've got people talking to me constantly all day, every day. Like even my, beautiful fiance, like I didn't talk to him. I was inside myself. And if I had and that is one thing as well, is that I know, like, and interestingly, he says that he's like, you didn't make any sounds. He's like, the whole time, the only time I heard you make a noise was when you woke me up the first time. Like he's like, you made a moan. And he said you made some like little like moany moans here and there. And he said the only time was when I said, I need to get up. I need to kneel down. He said, that came out of the blue. He's like, you were quiet. The whole room was quiet. And then, boom, you said that.
Yeah.
And then he said, I think, you know, as he was coming out, I made a noise or something. And apparently that's what I was like in my other labours too.
Yeah,
like
wow.
I don't make a whole lot of noise. I moo like a cow. But, you know, other than that, in transition, I get very mooey.
Yeah.
I get very low and guttural.
Normal. That's physiological. That's
absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Magic. And so the room that you're in right now, that's where Henry was born.
This is where Henry was born,
That's
yes.
cool.
And there's look, some people will find this disgusting, but we find it quite hilarious. It's gone now, but there was a tiny little stain on the mat that we couldn't get out, and Evan was always like, oh, that's where Henry was born. I'm like, yeah, we thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And another funny thing is that, you know, this is a birthy podcast,
Exactly,
so hopefully people who aren't disgusted by this type of thing are going to listen to it, and if anyone else I know listen to it, well, this is me, so you just have to know. But one of our, oh my God, we crack up about this all the time. He was washing the towels. Evan was washing the towels the next day, all the birth towels. Yeah. And he said he found something on the towel when he was hanging it out on the line, and he realised it was a bit of umbilical cord. So he just flicked it over the back fence, and a kookaburra came and got it.
It's return to nature. That is
amazing.
The circle of life in a way.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I know.
Like,
we nearly died telling people that story, and people are so disgusted by that, and we're like, oh, we love it.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant. The kookaburras will be thriving.
I know. They're so stoked. So there's probably some tree growing down the back of our house where it's Henry's tree. So some people bury their placenta under a tree. We just get a kookaburra to poo out a bit of,
I mean,
you know,
can it get any cooler than that?
I know, it's nature.
It's nature, exactly. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing such an incredible story. Like, you know, for private obstetrician, modeler care, labour, birth experiences, and then
the
fifth one, just like completely free of all of that drama, of all of that stress.
Can I say something really quickly? I know it's at the end, but I want to kind of say, like, I am not, you know, I don't want anyone to think that I'm some, you know, amazing superhuman who wasn't scared or didn't have concerns or was just so fear-free going into birth, and was like, I absolutely have confidence, but I am like any normal human being. I had anxieties and fears, and I was like, oh my God, what if? But the way that I handled that is by just going back and looking at the facts and looking at the research and looking at everything that really, really supported that, no, this is a safe choice. And I had a lot of affirmations and things up, and a lot of my affirmations were, a few of them went, because I did go through, there was one point where I hit a wall and I did start to get worried. And I was like, shit, what am I doing? Am I making a wrong choice? And that's when I went and looked, and I did some affirmations, and I would say to myself, one of them was, fear is a liar. So basically fear is telling me a lie. Fear is, you know, this is just, I don't need to believe fear all the time. Like, fear absolutely has its place, but you need to look deeper. Yeah. So just because I was feeling fear didn't mean that it was a bad choice or a dangerous choice. And also I think one that I was looking at when, again, I must have been nearing transition, and I was thinking, oh God, oh God, oh God. I think it was like, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Feel the fear and do it anyway. So that's when I started to feel like, oh God, I'm going to have to push this baby out soon. I'm going to push this baby out soon. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I just kept looking at this one affirmation, feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. So I realized that that's how I had to get past the fear, was not deny the fear, but accept that it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got past that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And yeah, I guess we didn't really talk too much about the fears, but I think that's also, you know, a good summary that, like, yeah, the fears come up, like, we care.
Yeah.
Like, you know, going back to the very beginning, I think you said something about, like, the fear mongering of, like, oh, you don't care about your baby.
Yes, absolutely.
No, actually, we really care.
Really, really care.
And
like, we really care.
And that comes up, any possibility, you're looking into and you're deep diving into it.
Yes, very much. And very, very much willing to get to a point where we, like, are not, you know, we're not just these crazy people who just, I am by no means like airy-fairy individual. I'm very much about the facts and statistics and the real ones, though. Yeah. The real ones, not the ones that they give you to tell you, if you do this, your baby's going to die. Yeah. Wait, why, how, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Oh, so that's not actually true? Yeah. Oh, okay, well, thank you, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I'm not airy-fairy by any means. So I know that there are possibilities of things going wrong. I know that there are risks, but it's the same in a hospital.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it can happen in a hospital. Like, this isn't kind of part of the discussion now, but my daughter, my now beautiful, strong 8-year-old, she was very unwell. She aspirated meconium at birth because things could have been done differently. Yeah. So, yeah, there are risks. There are things that happen to babies and mums in hospital that cause great damage, and they don't happen at home.
Yeah.
So, you know, for anyone to say, oh, you chose to birth at home because you don't care about your baby's safety, it's like, well, if I tell you my story and we go into detail, then maybe you'll understand that, no, that is actually not the truth.
Yeah, if you're going to say home isn't safe, then hospital is also not safe.
Oh,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. You have to pick your risks. You have to weigh, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was just a little, I wanted to put that on the end there because, I'm not, if you are planning on a home birth or a free birth or anything and you have fears, you are normal. You're not weak. You're brave. You're brave just to be going through labour, pregnancy, labour, birth. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're not weak to have fears.
That's perfect. I love that. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you so much. That was lots of fun.